They get neurotic, they get anxious, they're
That happened.
yeah, that happened to me.
Future you already doesn't want to tell the truth.
We've made such a habit of turning it all into an opportunity to escape our emotions, so that dealing with it in a new way is something that we actually have to learn. I'll tell you, she's probably already assumed far worse than what you've done and is willing to work with you on it. If I bring it back up, I'm just going to make it worse. Everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Couple Cure. I'm Jay.
And I'm Lori. And today's question is a little bit of a piggyback on 601. In 601, I asked him, what's one tactic you use to lie that you never told anybody? And this one is going to dive into the other tactics he used. Back then, in 601, you mentioned how you would kind of add words in your own mind. Like, did you use...
Yeah, I would edit the response to not today or not within the last couple of hours or
Yeah,
whatever.
in his head in order to be able to get away with not telling the full truth. And the question I'm going to be asking Jay today is, what tactics did you use to lie and cover up your porn use? I'm thinking he's going to remember a few of them, but then I'm going to go through and ask specific ones. So we have, 6, 7 questions on here, maybe more than that. But Jay, what tactics did you use to lie and cover up your porn use?
The one tactic I learned early on was to just keep denying. Just say no over and over and over, because that was a consistent answer I could give. I wasn't trying to create any kind of story or make a case out of it. It was just like, nope, that didn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think other than that, there was, keeping the details pretty broad. No, I didn't use my computer for anything.
Mm-hmm.
Not answering the spirit of the question, more like either the letter of the question or creating a letter of the question. Oh, no, I didn't use my computer while,
Or you didn't look at porn, but you had been looking at porn subs or something.
Right.
Kind of a thing.
Yeah, I was using something else.
And here, that would have been on a question like, did you look at anything?
And then I think minimizing of, oh, well, I had something that was in the room, but it was no big deal. Or there was just kind of playing things off, trying to keep details to a minimum, not open myself to more questions, I guess. It's just try to...
Like it was no big deal? Or...
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, instead of answering an open-ended question with a long answer, it's just, no, I'm good.
When you worked at Keystone, I know you had said... some stuff came through the junk mail. And those are times where I heard you say, it's no big deal. I got rid of it really quickly. Mm-hmm. Do you remember specifically if you did look and were triggered and said it was no big deal?
Man, going back to Keystone, that's a long time.
This is like 27 years ago.
Yeah. Nothing comes to mind that I recall, but getting some sort of swimsuit edition in the mail versus the porn I was looking at. It's like, of course, it's no big deal. I was looking at much worse than that at times. At that particular time of that question, I don't recall.
And he brings up a good point in that I remember when it first all came out, I was like, oh, you must have, I'm sure you went to this website, which was like a lingerie website. And he's like, no, why would I? I had access to outright porn. Why would I go to that other one? And so later, even not really pretty faces could trigger him, but he got confused. Like, oh, there's a kind of a girl next door. Look to this actress, and I don't know, like I'm attracted to her, but she's not showing any skin, and he didn't even know what to do there, so he got re-sensitized. So there's definitely a desensitization where lingerie or bikinis might not trigger a guy, but there's also a re-sensitization where it doesn't take any skin at all. Maybe it's just a pretty face. Not sure that happens with all the guys, but it can happen.
Not taking them down the road of what I would call a relapse, but certainly a place of their being impacted by somebody else and don't necessarily know what to do about it. They get neurotic, they get anxious, they're
That happened.
Yeah, that happened to me. And I think that's fairly normal because I know I just had a question this last week of somebody kind of talking about that in relation to what do I do when this happens, because I'm not really sure what my response is supposed to be. We've made such a habit of turning it all into an opportunity to escape our emotions or whatever. So dealing with it in a new way is something that we actually have to learn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So another tactic is playing dumb or faking confusion. Did you ever do that to avoid getting caught?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think I did that a lot before, and to a degree after D-Day. We talked about some things after D-Day where, again, noticing somebody or seeing something out of the corner of my eye, us kind of going around in circles about that, but definitely before D-Day as well of, oh, I don't know what you're talking about. Or,
Mm-hmm.
no, that was, it was something over there. I don't know what you're talking about kind of thing. But definitely that idea of not having full awareness of my environment and at the same time having way too much awareness of my environment.
Right, right. Did you ever use the truth to make your lies more believable? Like, did you admit to something lesser to hide something worse? And I've seen at least one of our clients do this before.
I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't do exactly that, to tell the truth about something of, well, yeah, I saw somebody over there, but I didn't see, this or that, or more detail.
I know exactly when you did it. So I had written up this script. It's actually called Tool One. It's a really effective tool. And I used that to confront him back 15 years ago. And he did tell me the truth. Eventually, the day after, he's like, give me a day to think about it. We ended up talking again, and he said, yes, I did, but it wasn't videos. It wasn't videos. It wasn't videos. And then
Right.
July 4th, if you've seen that episode for Independence Day, that's when it came out that, okay, fine, there was videos. And so I know that there you did. And the way it worked with one of our clients was she would, ask him, and he'd deny. And then he'd finally come out with like a smaller thing that he was actually doing. And, she would kind of go away from it going, oh, okay, that must have been what I was picking up on. And I was like, okay, ask him if there's more.
Right.
And it took a while, took, I don't know, maybe another week. And then the truth actually, the fuller truth came out.
From the addict standpoint, we're testing the waters. If I say this and it's okay, or if it's enough, maybe I don't have to fully expose myself or let all the worse things come out. Guys, I'll tell you, she's probably already assumed far worse than what you've done and is willing to work with you on it. So just getting it out in the open is going to be the better solution than what I did. Oh, it was just still images, not videos. It wasn't nudity. It was nudity. It wasn't hardcore. I mean, all those goofy things that I've heard other men do, myself included. It's one of the reasons why a full disclosure is helpful, because you have somebody who is walking you through, was it this? Was it this? Was it this? Not to make it worse or to shame you or to rub your nose in it, but to keep her from having a trip too far down the wrong road and getting an idea of exactly what it is she's dealing with. What you don't want to have happen is months, years later, after she's done all this work to heal and to forgive and to reestablish a relationship, and then you're like, oh, one more thing.
Yeah. And you also don't want to get into a situation where she has to ask just the right question.
Right.
That's kind of what Jay was talking about, that, well, it wasn't the computer. Like, I didn't use porn on my computer today.
Right.
And I had to go, did you use porn? Did you pursue women in any way today?
And that's openness versus honesty. You don't have to ask me the right question if I'm willing to be open. I'm just going to tell you what happened. I'm going to proactively tell you the truth, which again, I get for addicts, that's really scary, but that's the goal.
So the next question is, did you ever knowingly play upon my sympathies? Which is a very common tactic. Like, you don't want to ask this before little Johnny's birthday, that kind of thing. Or I've been through so much with my father's illness. How could you bring this up now?
Right.
I mean, it doesn't have to look like that because we don't have a little Johnny, but
nothing like that's coming to mind. Those moments where maybe I could tell the truth and didn't would have been, oh, well, this is going to be a bad time. And again, for the addicts, you guys are always going to think it's going to be a bad time. You don't want to tell the truth ever. And so it doesn't matter if everything's perfect. You don't want to ruin that. If everything's terrible, you don't want to add to it. So it's all of this kind of calculated idea of not making things worse. It's going to make things worse. Whether things are great or things are terrible, it's going to make it worse. But prolonging the pain is, again, go back to 6.6 where we're raising that weight above her head. So
think about it this way. I saw it was a decluttering video. It was just a really short one. And it talked about, if you ever say I'm going to put off cleaning up this area until later, future you is already tired. So think about that. Future you already doesn't want to tell the truth. The future is already a bad time. So, there's no time like the present. Now, again, you do want to go at her pace. It's best to do a therapeutic disclosure. There are ways to do it that keep her from being further hurt. But if you just go and dump everything on her, that's not going to lead to really, quick healing for her or the relationship. What phrases or emotions did you fake to throw me off?
I definitely faked the emotion of kind of having everything under control. Like, it was just a trip. It was no big deal. Covering the anxiety, the upset, of keeping things secret was definitely something I was trying to fake. So what emotions did I fake and what
phrases did you fake to throw me off?
Well, I mean, the classic one was coming home and saying, no, I didn't use porn today. The story is I would tell Lori in the morning, I will tell you tonight if I use porn today. And then I would come home at night and tell her, no, I didn't use porn today. And there was a time in which that was true. And then it became a lie. And I was editing that phrase in my head, but she had gotten so used to kind of the pattern that I was able to kind of keep that going.
That's something else. I would say you faked that line in a robotic way. I remember just feeling somewhere in there, just like, it just feels very, no, I didn't use porn and I did not struggle today. It felt very
staccato or staged.
Well, just when I pressed, you would show signs of discomfort and stress. So I was like, okay, I think there's something more here. And I started feeling like, I want you to use other words because I'm feeling like you're just falling into this rote response to me that's difficult to trust. And I think another one, the anger, I think he would, escalate really quickly. I don't know so much that it was you faking it, but I do remember there were times where you were just like banging on the bed. No, I didn't, and afterwards I was like, holy crow, he got really upset over something that ended up being true. My hunch was true. I can't say it was all of them because I do know that later he'd be like, oh, wow, I'm now realizing that there is a connection there. And yet on at least one of them, he was going all out in a huge denial when it was really true.
I've been going through the 12 steps with my mentor, and the question that I answered today was, did I ever overreact or underreact to situations while I was using? I overreacted to everything that didn't go my way, And being pressed to tell the truth or being pressed to expose myself was another place where I overreacted because to whatever degree I knew that intimidation tactic, that anger was a way of shutting down the conversation.
Okay. And I already know the answer to this, but the next question is going to be, did you ever not think too hard? Like if I asked you a specific question, did you ever go like, anyway, why don't you, I knew you were going to say that because it's something you talked about before.
Right. If I thought too hard about it, I would begin to remember things and expose details in my own, because I believe most addicts do this. We kind of keep all that information tucked away, and it just becomes more and more stuff that we are deluding ourselves over, that we're trying to delude other people about. And so, yes, if you had asked me, oh, did you ever look at this person? No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Because if I thought about it,
You might remember.
I might remember that I had, or somebody similar, or, some other thing that it would have just cracked that door open in a way that I didn't want to.
So that is an important point. There is a certain type of brain fog that happens, a certain type of delusion that can happen in addicts anyway. So it might not be at the forefront of their mind. I know I've had female clients ask me, is my husband being truthful that he wouldn't remember this? And I'm thinking, yes, just because of how much they can consume, just flipping through, pictures or video thumbnails, how much they might see in one evening. So it doesn't surprise me that that can happen. And I also know that there's quite a lot of just outright delusion. They start separating themselves from reality just so they don't have to feel like they're lying. Right. So it makes it easier to lie. Speaking of brain fog, did you ever use my trauma fog or my kindness against me?
I'm sure I did. I'm not pulling up exactly how, but I do know that part of it was if I just give you enough details, you can connect the dots on your own and come to a conclusion that's maybe not the truth, but it's a conclusion that you can accept. I think I was trying to shoot for somewhere in that area, which was using one of those two things against you.
Okay. Did you ever use kind of like, I'll just wait her out, she'll forget, life will distract her? I know I don't know if you actively used it, but I noticed that not really in conversations about pornography or his hidden life, but bad conversations that we would get, it would just get too late, and then we would have a couple of big events the next couple of days. By about the third day, I was totally distracted, but I don't know if you ever picked up on that. I know that one of our clients did specifically, that client we were talking about earlier, they did specifically pick up on that, like, because there's a lot of responsibilities that wife had.
So one of my primary tactics of dealing with life was, if you wait long enough, problems go away. And I know that on many things, I did not actively pursue you. I did not, certainly didn't press into confrontation.
Yeah.
So part of it was, if I bring it back up, I'm just going to make it worse. That's like a justification, and not really having the tools to do that, to re-enter and say, hey, let's circle back to that conversation. Let's talk about this or that. Here's what I've been thinking. But I do know that is something that most addicts do is, nope, if we've gotten back to pseudo peace, I'm not going to disrupt anything.
Pseudo peace works for me.
Yeah.
Kind of a thing.
Well, and it's, I'm already on thin ice. I'm already feeling like you're ready to throw me out. So I'm not going to make the mistake of drawing attention to myself.
Okay.
Addict thinking, but definitely self-preservation type decision to keep from pressing back into the conversation again.
Okay. Well, 2 things that you can leave in the comments. Number 1, betrayed spouses. What tactics are we forgetting about? And number 2, would you be interested, because I'm looking at these going, these would make a really good class, would you be interested in me putting together a class? If so, just say, yes, I would attend the class or something like that. But also, like I said before, betrayed spouses, what tactics are we forgetting? What tactics have you seen in your own life, that you can really pinpoint this is something that addicts use? Well, that's all I have for today. So you want to close this out?
Yeah. Hey, everybody, just be sure to like this video and subscribe to our channel. It's the easiest way that you can support us going forward. And we'll see you again on the next episode.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.